Breaking right now on Morning News Now, firefighters racing against time as the deadly wildfires in Los Angeles rage on for a sixth day. This morning, crews scrambling to put out the flames before winds pick up again. So far, at least 24 people are dead, more than 12,000 homes and buildings burned, and more than 100,000 people forced to evacuate. To see it this way. I never thought I would live through something like this. We have team coverage from Los Angeles with the very latest, plus the dangerous conditions that could make the firefight even more challenging. Also this morning, Special Counsel Jack Smith stepping down just days before the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump. More on the move and the efforts to block the release of a report into criminal investigations of the president-elect. Plus, President Biden set to make his final address from the Oval Office this week. We'll take you to the White House for what to expect. And corporate controversy, why more major companies are ditching their diversity initiatives and what it could mean for the workplace. Good morning. I am Savannah Sellers. Thank you very much for joining us on a Monday. Joe is off this morning. We are, of course, going to get started with the latest on those deadly California wildfires. Officials say the death toll, it's now reached 24, but that is expected to rise. Firefighters are bracing for resurgent Santa Ana winds, with gusts expected to reach up to 70 miles per hour, potentially fanning flames and scattering embers once again. According to CAL FIRE, more than 40,000 acres have been scorched across Los Angeles so far, with more than 12,000 structures damaged or destroyed, many of those, of course, people's homes. In an exclusive interview with NBC News, California Governor Gavin Newsom spoke to our Jacob Soboroff about this historic nature of this disaster.
In your opinion, is this or will it be the worst natural disaster in the history of the United States?
I think it will be in terms of just the costs associated with it. In terms of the scale and scope.
We have team coverage of the wildfires in just a few moments. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman will have the latest on the winds that are fueling the fires and expected to get worse. And we'll hear from one of the firefighters, one of the heroes on the front lines. But we're going to get started with NBC's Morgan Chesky. He's in hard-hit Altadena, California, a community that has just completely changed in the face of this tragedy. Morgan, good morning. You've been doing incredible reporting from this area since this disaster started. What is the scene like at this point there this morning?
Yeah, Savannah, a very stark scene here in the Altadena area where we have entire neighborhoods that, as you can see behind me, have been reduced to rubble. This, unfortunately, not the exception to the rule. And some key things to point out that have transpired over the weekend. You mentioned this ongoing firefighting effort. I think entering this weekend, firefighters had crossed their fingers that the winds would die down and allow them to make some significant progress on this fire. That's happened to a degree. We are now 27% contained here on the Eaton fire. To the west of us, the Palisades fire now 11% contained. And while that's certainly encouraging progress, firefighters did tell me that the winds did not die down as much as they originally anticipated over the weekend, and the fire was still acting incredibly unpredictable at times. They had to make a very strong stand to keep it from going through a canyon that would have allowed it access to the heavily populated San Fernando Valley. So the concern right now, Savannah, is that despite the progress, those winds are expected to pick back up today, potentially into tomorrow. We know a red flag warning extending all the way to Wednesday right now. So even though we have this incredible surge of firefighting resources that have arrived really en masse over the last 72 hours or so, their work is still very much cut out for them in the days ahead here. Savannah?
Morgan, as I mentioned a moment ago, the Santa Ana winds, they are expected to pick back up overnight and then last through at least Wednesday. That obviously has a major impact on fighting these fires. We are going to talk with somebody who's on the front lines in just a moment, but from what you're seeing there in Altadena and with the Eaton fire still raging, how are firefighters preparing for those conditions?
Well, I think the most clear impact that we see when those winds pick back up to a significant degree is that we really lose the assets that the airdrops have provided, or the benefits, rather, because we saw videos earlier on in this firefight of the helicopters, of the fixed wings that really, in some cases, couldn't even fly because it was too windy. And even if they were flying and they dropped the water, it was blown off target by those incredibly strong winds. And ground crews, of course, will put up as good a firefight as they can, but it has to be kind of a combo firefight, particularly with a blaze as fast moving as this one. So that's certainly top of mind for these crews. We have had a fire captain tell us that when they arrive and the winds are that strong, if there is no air support, they will look at a populated, an area where there are homes. And if the flames have already spread to certain houses, they'll have to even fall back to a street to essentially make their stand there, understanding that those homes will be overtaken in a very short amount of time. So the wind factor cannot be overstated on how big a difference it makes and how much more danger it adds to this firefight. And that is why we are clearly saying we are not out of the woods just yet here. Savannah?
Absolutely. Morgan Chesky, thank you very much for your reporting. Stay safe. For more, let's bring in Brent Pasqua, CAL FIRE Battalion Chief. Chief, thank you very much for joining us. It is good to see you again. I'm sorry that it's still under these circumstances. I want to pick up right there on the winds. We know that these hurricane-level winds last week is what helped fuel these fires, really make them explode so quickly, kind of behave in ways that were unable to be kept up with. And we know that those winds are expected to return. Walk us through how much of a concern that is. When you put in context last week when the Palisades fire got started, is this almost like those conditions all over again, and the potential not only for these fires to grow, but for new ones to begin?
Yeah, that's correct. There's definitely a lot of potential there. So we took the last couple days to heavily attack this fire and do everything we can to knock the heat out of it with all of our crews and being able to use the air assets. We've made quite a difference here on this fire.
Yeah, walk us through that progress. What were you able to do over the weekend? And maybe explain, I know there is a certain percent on both the Pacific Palisades fire as well as the Eaton fire that is contained. Maybe explain exactly what containment means, how it's good news when we hear that there is a level of containment, but it does not mean that the fires are out by any means. But tell us what you were able to do over this weekend.
That's right. That number is a tricky number to describe sometimes to people who aren't familiar with this. So when we're sitting at now 13%, that part of the fire we are comfortable walking away with and not having anyone there and it being completely out and not reigniting in any way. So it's tough to bring that number up when we have these winds coming, that's for sure. But the crews, they were able to use their aircraft, our ground assets, bulldozers. We've been out there right on the front lines, right on the fire lines, if you will, trying to find any hidden heat. Yesterday, I was hard-pressed to find any smoke on this fire, but that doesn't mean it's out by any means. There's a lot of heat in the earth, in the ground, just below the surface. So firefighters have been out there the last couple days hustling to get all the heat out so that when these winds do surface, there's no embers or hot coals that can blow over our fire lines. Can you explain that a little further, Chief? I think as people who are not familiar at all with how to fight a fire, we just think there's flames, there's any type of fire, therefore there is heat. What do you mean by take the heat out of it? Right, so it's very misleading when you say 13%. Even though I couldn't find any smoke yesterday on this fire, there's still a lot of heat that's hidden just below the surface. So it's our job to do what we call mopping up. We'll dig up just below the surface, put water on it, make sure it's out, make sure it's cool to the touch. And that's a lot of work, and that's what we've been doing these last 3 days. If we find a lot of heat, we'll bring in helicopters to make an airdrop. And then we've also, the fire lines, we also have painted with that fire retardant. So that's an extra layer of protection there. And then the communities nearest these fire lines, we brought in a surge of resources so that we have engines in those neighborhoods, sometimes one engine to a house.
There have been heartening scenes of just this outpouring of support from the community, whether that be local restaurants feeding y'all on the front lines, people bringing donations to you, but also the other cities, other states, even other countries sending reinforcements to work alongside you all. How has it felt to receive that support? And do you have equipment, manpower? Do you have what you need?
We do have what we need, and it's been amazing. I've never seen anything like it. The support we've received from everyone, not only the community, but other states, like you said, other countries. It's been extraordinary. And together, we're going to be able to stop this fire and actually make a difference because of that support. It's been a tremendous help.
Chief Brent Pasqua, I pray next week we are not having a similar conversation. We so appreciate your time, and we're thinking about you on the front lines. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Savannah.
We want to get you more of that exclusive interview with California Governor Gavin Newsom. He joined Meet the Press to discuss the recovery and rebuilding efforts. Here's moderator Kristen Welker.
Hello there, Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, NBC's Jacob Soboroff spoke exclusively with California Governor Gavin Newsom for Meet the Press about the wildfire rebuilding efforts ahead of major events in Los Angeles.
Over the course of the next several years, Los Angeles will be host to the World Cup and then the Super Bowl and then the Olympics. With this rebuilding effort needing to take place, is LA going to be ready for all of those global events?
My humble position, and it's not just being naively optimistic, that only reinforces the imperative moving quickly, doing it in the spirit of collaboration and cooperation. President of the United States, Donald Trump, to his credit, was helpful in getting the Olympics to the United States of America, to get it down here in LA. We thank him for that. This is an opportunity for him to shine, for this country to shine, for California and this community to shine. The opportunity with all of that and all that opportunity and that pride and spirit that comes from not just hosting those three iconic games and venues, but also the opportunity, I think, to rebuild at the same time. And that's why we're already organizing a Marshall Plan.
You can see the full interview and a lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
Kristen, thank you. And our thanks to Jacob for that exclusive. Well, for more on the situation in California, we'll also talk about across the country. Let's get a check on your morning news now weather with meteorologist Michelle Grossman. Michelle, good morning. Of course, these winds returning, that is the big concern.
Yeah, that's right. Hi there, Savannah. We have that daunting situation ahead of us once again. A little break over the weekend, but we're starting to see those winds ramp up, really ramping up later on today into Tuesday, also Wednesday. So we could see a similar situation to what we saw last week. 10 million people at risk. We have red flag warnings extending from places like Santa Clarita, Malibu, Santa Ana, Temecula, Escondido, down to Campo. We're looking at winds gusting up to 50, even 70 miles per hour. That's going to fan the flames, and it will also ignite some more fires. We're looking at humidity levels, bone dry still, 8 to 15%. We have a big area of high pressure off the coast that is pumping in dry air. We're looking at those northeasterly winds. That's a dry wind. And as it reaches the ground and kind of warms up as well. Now, this is new. We have a particularly dangerous situation that was issued by the LA office of the National Weather Service. It was issued last night. This is for through Wednesday. And that's because we're looking at extremely critical fire conditions once again. High risk for large fires with explosive growth, just like we saw last week. And we're looking at places like Fillmore, Westlake Village, San Fernando, Malibu, also Pyramid Lake. Places like that need to be on high alert. I'm sure they already are. You need to follow your evacuation plans if you get them from your county officials. So for today, we have an extreme risk. That's where we're looking at the pink color. We also have a critical risk, the red color, and then the elevated risk is in the orange. That's going to be the same story as we go throughout tomorrow. Not much relief on Tuesday, not much relief on Wednesday. So this is what tomorrow looks like. Glendora, Santa Clarita, Thousand Oaks under an extreme risk. Once again, tomorrow, we're looking at that elevated risk just north of Santa Barbara, Big Bear Lake, Riverside, places like Escondido as well. We're going to watch this very closely over the next several days. These are the fires that are burning. The Eaton fire, 27% contained. The fire chief did a really great explanation of this. Palisades fire, 13%. Hearst fire better at 89%. But we're going to watch these fires and then hopefully not see additional fires. Winds gusting right now anywhere from 10, 20, 25 miles per hour. Look what happens as we go throughout time, though. We're going to see these ramp up, and they're going to be sustained gusts for several for a longer time. So we're looking at winds gusting up to 54 miles per hour in some spots, up to 60 in others. And then as we go throughout tomorrow, that's going to be the same story as well. Of course, that's the big story this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're also looking at bitterly cold temperatures, dangerous chill as we look at the northern plains, the upper Midwest. Temperatures in the single digits in some spots, below zero in others. Minneapolis today, 6 degrees. That's 18 degrees below normal. Notice that chill extends all the way down to the southern plains. We're looking at Corpus Christi in the low 60s, New Orleans, 55, 49 in Jacksonville. Tomorrow, we're going to see that cold spread back into the northeast, parts of the mid-Atlantic once again. New York City just at the freezing mark tomorrow, below freezing in Charleston, West Virginia, 25. And look at those 40s in Huntsville, Charlotte, Charleston, 54, Albany, 55. And we're going to stay chilly throughout later part of this week as well. New York City, 33 on Wednesday, 32 on Thursday, 39 on Friday. Watching the chance for some snow, too. We're looking at that snow falling in the Great Lakes. So we do have winter alerts along the Great Lakes. Could see a little bit of snow, too, in the interior parts of the Northeast. So the chill is there. That's going to set the stage for some snow. But, of course, we're going to continue to talk about this fire threat.
Absolutely. It's just so tough to see. And like I had just said with the chief, the fact that the conditions are similar to what started this and then fanned it in the first place is so concerning. Michelle, thank you.
So scary, yeah.
It is. All right. We'll see you next hour. Well, let's get to politics now. And as expected, Special Counsel Jack Smith resigned from the Justice Department over the weekend. Smith led 2 federal investigations against President-elect Donald Trump, one into alleged attempts to overturn his 2020 election defeat, and then the other into allegations that he mishandled classified documents. We might remember this. Both cases were dropped after Mr. Trump won the recent election. That's because of a long-standing Justice Department policy not to prosecute a sitting president. However, Smith did submit his final report before resigning. NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley joins us on this now. Ryan, good morning. So Smith's resignation, it was widely expected to happen ahead of President-elect's inauguration next week. But just walk us through why that is. Why would he step down?
Sure. Well, I mean, the investigation was going to wind down before Donald Trump took office, just because they could not go forward with this prosecution with Donald Trump in office. So theoretically, this would be a situation where the special counsel would continue on and continue prosecuting a case. It wouldn't necessarily end just because there was a change in administration. But in this case, because it's the sitting president of the United States, there's this longstanding Justice Department policy that the sitting president of the United States cannot be charged, nor can he be on trial. Savannah.
During the campaign, Mr. Trump had attacked Jack Smith, often by name, as our viewers might remember, saying he should be thrown out of the country. He also threatened to prosecute his opponents during the campaign. We've heard a lot about that. Is there any concern within the Justice Department that Smith may be a target for the president-elect's incoming DOJ leadership?
Yeah, there's definitely that concern. I mean, the issue is that there's really no crime that you could credibly charge him with, right? So you have to get that past a grand jury, and you'd also have to get Justice Department employees that Donald Trump would appoint to agree to go along with that and to pretend that there was something to investigate here. So I think that that's really the hurdle that would prevent this from happening in the first place. All of this took place, in D.C. So also, or most of it took place in D.C. Theoretically, I guess some of it took place in Florida, but there's just not a criminal statute that we're really referring to. This is just sort of one of the things that Donald Trump throws out where he thinks, a lot of his political enemies should be thrown away in prison.
So, Ryan, the big question here, those reports, where do things stand on them being released? Do we expect to see any part of them before Mr. Trump's inauguration or ever?
Those reports, yes, we do expect them to be released, or at least one of them to be released, volume 1 to be released. And that could come very quickly, honestly, because right now there is a holdup because a Trump-appointed judge in Florida, Judge Eileen Cannon, has put this ban on releasing them, even though she really didn't have any jurisdiction over the issues at hand. So there's just the question of when the Justice Department is legally allowed to release those without that holdup from Eileen Cannon. When that holdup drops from Eileen Cannon through whatever means, we could see those reports very quickly, or report very quickly.
Yesterday, we got some comments from Vice President-elect J.D. Vance about who he thinks should be pardoned from the January 6th rioters. What is he saying?
Yeah, what was immediately clear to me is that J.D. Vance understands these cases a lot better than Donald Trump does, because it was abundantly clear that Donald Trump really didn't understand. Let's take a listen to what J.D. Vance had said.
If you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there.
So he's separating, obviously, the violence from the nonviolence there. I think the question is when he's talking about, the people who are treated like gang members. Remember, not that many people who are nonviolent are still in prison or have even, really were given prison in the first place. A lot of the nonviolent folks were just given sentences of probation if they simply walked into the Capitol building. But there are those individuals who were actually part of gangs, the Proud Boys, for example, the Oath Keepers, for example, whose cases were handled differently because they were involved in this conspiracy. And that's what ultimately resulted in longer charges. So we should see how those pardons ultimately played out in just over a week here.
All right. Ryan, thank you very much. Well, this week on Capitol Hill, more than a dozen of President-elect Trump's cabinet picks are gearing up for a grilling by Senate members as confirmation hearings get underway. Among those expected to face extra scrutiny is Mr. Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense. That's Pete Hegseth. His hearing gets started tomorrow. We have the host of MSNBC's Way Too Early, Ali Vitale, joining us now. Love getting to intro you that way, Ali. Good morning. So we know Hegseth has faced these allegations of sexual, financial misconduct, alcohol abuse. Now, he denies all of that, but how much of an uphill battle is he expected to face tomorrow?
It is going to be a slog, Savannah. We knew this from the very moment that Hegseth was nominated. Initially, there were just concerns about his managerial abilities. This is a massive organization of hundreds of thousands of people within the Department of Defense. Hegseth has never run an organization that large. He is, of course, a veteran himself, but there are questions that senators are asking, even putting aside all of those various allegations of misconduct that you mentioned. We would already be having questions about if he was qualified for this position. So not only does he have to assuage those concerns, he will have to then make public, I imagine, clarifying his stance on whether women should be able to serve in combat. That's something that he said, much controversy around that. And then also reminding you that two of the women who sit on the Armed Services Committee that he's going to be testifying in front of, Senators Joni Ernst and Tammy Duckworth, are combat veterans themselves. I imagine they have a lot of thoughts that we're going to hear about on his past comments there. And then that's nothing to say of the allegations of misuse of alcohol, abuse of funds when he was running a veterans organization, and then the sexual assault allegation out of California. Of course, charges were not brought there, but many people have read that report, myself included, many members on the Hill, a lot of questions that they're going to be asking.
Ali, in addition to all that information, we do know two leading members of the Senate Arms Committee, they got Hegseth's FBI background check. What do we know about that, and will other senators have a chance to see the report before the hearing?
They're going to try. It's coming late in the game here. At this point, we know that the background check was completed at the end of last week, that the two top members of the committee have been able to get their hands on it, and they have been able to read it. But Democrats specifically have two concerns. One, the fact that they haven't seen it yet. They would very much like to. But two, the level of comprehensiveness within that background check. We listed and detailed some of the allegations against Hegseth. I know Democratic senators that I've spoken to think there might be more there on a variety of those allegations. So they want to pull on those threads. They were hoping that the FBI background check would be a way for them to do that, to be able to get more information before the confirmation hearings. Regardless, they would just like to see what's in this report. At this point, it's not clear that they'll be able to do that. But let me make clear, it's not just Democrats who would like to see it. Republican senators have been clear that this is going to be a key part of the way they figure out if they can get to yes on Hegseth, and if there's things in the background check that either assuage their concerns or amplify them.
And Ali, what other confirmation hearings are you keeping an eye out for?
There is a lot going on this week. Truly buckle in for the start of confirmation battle season, because you start off with Hegseth. Arguably, that's one of the most contentious. There have not yet been hearings scheduled officially for some of the other contentious picks. You'll see on the screen the list of hearings does not at this point include Tulsi Gabbard or RFK Jr., the HHS Secretary nominee. Those are going to be two of the more controversial ones not yet scheduled that we're also looking for. But take a look at January the 15th on Wednesday. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, going to start day one of her hearing. A lot of eyeballs going to be on that one. And then would-be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, now Senator of Florida, he is going to be one of the less controversial ones, and it'll give you a real contrast of what it looks like to be mired in controversy, to face the full onslaught of Democratic skepticism and questioning, versus Rubio, who is generally well-liked in bipartisan fashion. Many of the senators who I've spoken to who are going to be part of that confirmation hearing hearing feel he's prepared, of course, because of the Senate Intel Committee that he's served on, the past work that he has done. This is one that's likely to cruise through, but again, it's going to provide a real contrast.
All right, Ali Vitale, thanks for walking us through it, and get some sleep. Much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. If you're looking to help out the tens of thousands of people who've been displaced by the California wildfires, there are a lot of ways to give back, and we are going to show you how to make sure your donation ends up in the right hands. First, though, after the break, later this week, parting words from President Biden with his term in office entering its last week. We'll have a preview of the 46th president's final farewell to the American people. Welcome back. 1 week from today is Inauguration Day, ending President Joe Biden's 4 years in office. But before he leaves the White House, he is set to give a farewell address to the nation on Wednesday. NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell joins us with a look ahead at the president's address. Kelly, good morning. You are certainly an expert to be able to speak with you here, having covered Biden in and around the White House for 12 years here. So thank you very much for joining us. We know that a president's farewell address, it's kind of like this unofficial tradition. Now, usually they're kind of, notes of reflection, right? And wishing the incoming administration good luck. What do we know about what Biden plans?
Well, it is very much that. It's a capstone of a career. And in Joe Biden's case, it is a half century of public service. This whole week will be filled with a mix of planned departure notes. Today, the president will be delivering a foreign policy address. Wednesday is the farewell address, which is broad across all kinds of topics. And the intention is to have a final conversation with the American people while sitting president, to reflect on what the country's experienced together, to reflect on how he came into office, which, of course, when we think back, is at a time when COVID was a daily part of our lives with significant deaths, disruptions in so many ways of American life, loss of jobs. He'll talk about the economic gains that he believes he has put in place with job creation over that time, stewardship in the world. Today, we'll especially hear about that when he goes to the State Department to talk about foreign policy, and that he came into office saying America is back, trying to repair relationships with partners and to deal with adversaries around the world. So in all of the dimensions of American life, domestic issues, the experience of democracy being at stake and being tested, also foreign policy and America's place in the world, all of those things are sort of the final note of the president to the public. Of course, he will participate in the inaugural events. That's something we did not see when Donald Trump was leaving office 4 years ago. Joe Biden has tried to look at this transition as something that, even though it was an outcome he did not want, that he wants to fortify and focus on the traditional events of handing off in a peaceful way. So it will be the story of his time in public service. It will be what he believes he achieved and what he hopes for what comes next when he leaves office.
And Kelly, I mean, just such a career in Washington. It goes back to 1973 for him, more than 50 years. 8 years vice president, 4 years president. How much do we think he'll touch on that legacy?
I think in degrees he will, because it's one of the longest presidencies that has that kind of public life attached to it. At times we've seen presidents come into power, serve a short time, and then move on. With Joe Biden, he has been a fixture of Washington, and in very relevant ways for a very long time. And for him, he has often described that as being the core of who he is, wanting to be relevant and public servants and being able to affect change. So he believes he has done that and that he has left the country in a better place than it was 4 years ago. That was a big subject of the campaign, and certainly with President Trump winning, there's an argument to be made that the public did not feel his stewardship was as positive as he would like to describe it. But that is often at this point judged by history later. And so for Joe Biden at age 82, retirement is not something he was eager to embrace. And he said in response to reporters' questions that he will still be seen and heard as a post-president. That's a question about what will that look like and how many opportunities there'll be for him to continue to comment on national affairs.
Certainly. Kelly O'Donnell, we appreciate your expertise on this morning. We'll be seeing you this week. Thank you. Well, throughout President-elect Donald Trump's transition into his second term, he's repeatedly talked about taking control of Greenland, which is currently an autonomous territory of Denmark. Well, he's threatened military force to seize the island. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez takes a closer look at the territory's growing geopolitical significance.
Perched at the very top of the world, Greenland is best known for its endless expanse of ice, the majesty of its frozen fjords, and the stunning beauty of its northern lights. But on a warming planet, the remote Arctic territory is taking on new geopolitical significance. And Donald Trump says it should be part of the U.S.
We need Greenland for national security purposes.
He's refusing to rule out using military force to take it, even though the territory is run by Denmark, a NATO ally.
People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it.
Denmark's prime minister this week saying Greenland is not for sale, and local authorities insisting that an appearance by the president-elect's son is a private visit, not an official government trip.
Here as tourists, seeing it looks like an incredible place.
Trump's plans for Greenland have been much mocked.
Annexing Greenland was the craziest idea he had 4 years ago, and this time it's his first idea.
But U.S. interest in the island actually began long before him.
On barren Greenland, at the very edge of the Atlantic war zone,
U.S. forces took control during World War II, while Denmark was under Nazi occupation. After the war, President Truman offered to buy it for $100 million in gold. Since then, the strategic value of Greenland and the wider Arctic has only increased. James Stavridis is the former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO.
The Arctic is crucial because of global warming. As the ice melts, trade routes open, oil and gas become more exploitable, and what's left up there? A thunderdome, 7 NATO nations on one side, Russia on the other.
The U.S. already has a military base in Greenland, the northernmost American installation in the world. Its radar designed to give early warning of an incoming attack. The shortest route for a ballistic missile fired from Russia could be over Greenland. Climate change also means new routes by sea. Arctic ice is melting rapidly, driving up ocean levels and flooding worldwide, but also clearing new paths for global shipping. Right now, a voyage from Europe to Japan takes around 22 days. The same journey via the Arctic could take as little as 10. Whoever controls Greenland could protect or threaten those routes. Greenland is also home to vast and largely untapped reserves of rare earth metals, critical for technology like smartphones and electric cars. But for now, Greenlanders showing little interest in joining the U.S., and experts warn American security would be harmed, not helped, by trying to force them.
I think the best thing we could do is to continue a strategy of robust engagement, working through Denmark, working directly with the Greenlanders.
An increasingly hot global competition now underway for this cold corner of the Earth. Raf Sanchez, NBC News.
Fascinating look there. Well, coming up, restaurants to the rescue as crews race to contain the devastating wildfires in California. Local eateries are serving up comfort food to survivors and first responders. And next, if you are looking to help Californians recover, there are a ton of ways to give back. We've got our friend and financial guru, Caleb Silver, here with some tips to make sure your donation ends up in the right hands. Stay with us. Welcome back. While crews race to contain the devastating wildfires in Southern California, dozens of restaurants across the region are trying to do their part to help. Several street food vendors are volunteering their time to help feed victims and first responders. NBC News Now anchor Tom Yamas has more on the efforts bringing the community together.
That's what got us on here.
This massive operation to feed and help those in desperate need started small.
We started with 2 hot dog cars, and now we're here.
When the fires hit, street food vendor Jimmy Medina and his son did what they could. They handed out hot dogs. But then he put out a call on social media for more food and more help.
It's not only us now, it's multiple. A lot of people are helping us out.
That call out led to this turnout on Thursday night, with people dropping all kinds of donations for anyone in need. His and other street vendors' operations taking over the Santa Anita racetrack parking lot. Street food chefs from all across Los Angeles joining in.
We've been working for more than 12, 15 hours a day. We just came to try to do the right thing. We didn't expect to inspire so many other people.
Comfort food, giving people who lost so much the fuel to simply keep going.
This means the world to us. We care about this community, you know? It's the most important thing, coming together and helping everybody.
Across the disaster zones, restaurants feeding and cheering first responders as well. Chef Jose Andres making sure firefighters here don't go hungry.
We are obviously in the different fires trying to provide food to the firefighters, making sure we have food almost 24 hours a day. So we have 2 food trucks.
Simple dishes with so much heart, a recipe for helping this community heal.
Just incredible to see. Our thanks to Tom Yamas for bringing us that story. Now, you might be at home thinking, how can you help? Well, with more than 150,000 people displaced in the LA area, people from around the world are looking for ways to help the city recover. Experts recommend being specific. We're going to talk about that with any donations you make. Also to consider long-term giving as a means of assistance, and also be aware of scams as all of this is going on. For more, we are joined by editor-in-chief of Investopedia, our friend Caleb Silvers here. Caleb, good morning. Let's start on this tip of being specific. I think it's kind of like you're giving with a purpose, right? You're giving to the right place, but also you're giving what people may need. I've been seeing some things posted online, like, you know, they don't necessarily want like random old clothes you had in your closet being shipped across the country or something like that. How can you make sure that you're giving something effectively?
Right, especially in these early days of the tragedy. You want to do something. Sometimes that's money, sometimes that's supplies. But think about what people need right now. What people need right now, in some cases, is shelter. In some cases, is food. In some cases, is a way to take care of their family pet. And there's plenty of places to give your money. But just think about where the needs are now, because they'll be very different, hopefully a week from now, if this thing is out, or in 2 to 3 weeks. So you got to think about where you want to put your money. And it's an emotional decision, because we want to help. We see people like that doing such great work. Avoid those red flags, unsolicited requests or high-pressure tactics to get you to give to something you weren't thinking about. That is something you want to avoid very specifically. And if you're thinking about giving, check the official registration of some of these organizations. Make sure they're IRS-verified 501c3 organizations, nonprofits. You can look up what they do through their annual reports or Form 990 on the IRS. You can find out very specifically what they need, and you can see all the needs that people have right now.
Yeah, I love the idea there, and this is something I've been doing with a best friend who lost their home. Assist specific families with item or housing, right? Like you know a real human who really has this need, and giving directly to them. And there are so many GoFundMes for just the massive and devastating number of families that have lost their homes and everything in them. Another thing that I think is a really good tip, and I'm not sure a lot of people know how to go about this, but is that longer term giving. Right now, so many people are showing up in those parking lots, restaurants, volunteers, donations pouring in. This is going to be a long and hard road for families, probably years, to be realistic, before they're back in their homes and their communities look anything like they used to. How does long-term giving work? What should people keep in mind for what families need?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you got to think about what happens after this as people try to rebuild their lives, rebuild their communities, rebuild their small businesses. So there's a lot of organizations that help people do that for the long run. We're talking about Mutual Aid LA. That's one of them that does a great job with that. The League of California Community Foundations, that supports foundations around the area that do have these long-term needs. And if you want to set up a giving program, you can do that by setting up a monthly giving program where you give a little bit of money every single month, so you're making a long-term contribution that actually sinks in and takes time. So look very specifically. You have a great list of charities vetted by NBC News.
Take a picture of this at home on your screen.
Take a picture of that, absolutely. But look up these charities and make sure they are effective in terms of where, if your money, you're giving money to them, it is going to where you want it to go. And make sure you're keeping records of what you give, and that you are actually getting the tax write-off for this as well, because you can use that to even give more at the end of the year next year if you want. So lots of good organizations to give. You just had a profile there with Jose Andres at World Central Kitchen. They're feeding people on the front lines. This is the emergency response part of the operation. These people need help as well. The people on the front lines, the firefighters. So if you look at that list, great places to give there. And there's also a lot of industry-specific places to give if you want to help out an industry in the rebuilding process when this is over.
That was so cool, because it had, like, if you want to help the animals, there's Humane Society. So I hope everybody at home was able to grab a shot of that. Caleb Silver, thank you very much. Really important information. I know so many people are wanting to help at home. We appreciate it. Well, as more neighborhoods face evacuation orders, some young people are turning to social media to share the moment-by-moment race to get out out of their homes and the valuables they chose to save in those precious moments. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has some of their stories.
All of this has my important documentation, cash, cards, memories, whatever, insurance, everything.
Gen Z taking to TikTok to process a whirlwind of emotions as they flee the out-of-control fires ravaging the West.
I don't know what is even in there. I just grabbed stuff and left.
Creators posting so-called evacuation hauls, sharing what they threw in their bags as they fled their homes.
Clothes, toothbrush, I don't have any of that.
Sammy Brielle moved into her West Hollywood apartment on Tuesday, rushing home from a workout class to pack her valuables when she found out her new home was in a level 2 evacuation zone.
It's just at Palisades and another fire broke out while I was there. It's right over there, so I don't have a car, so I'm running.
She was able to fill one suitcase with valuables, sharing the moment on social media to bring some levity to her own scary situation.
Talking to my phone is like one of those senses of comfort for me because it's like a personal journal and a personal diary. And it just makes me personally feel less alone.
Now I am going in his car and I hope he is safer than the fire.
I don't have a car here in LA, and I asked my neighbor who I saw was evacuating, could I come with you? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I went with my brand new neighbor that I met yesterday into his car.
We're okay now. We're heading south.
Sammy and her neighbor making the journey to safety, sharing a once-in-a-lifetime bond that they never could have anticipated.
So I'm like, hi, I know, like, we just met. Can I hold your hand? Like, I'm scared. And we literally held hands the entire car ride.
Sophia Navarro from Palisades also made it out, emotional over the few mementos she was able to save in her evacuation home.
This photo of me and my grandmother, but the frame broke while I was running, trying to get out. I had 5 minutes to maybe grab something, and my brain was obviously not in the right place, and I grabbed like a couple of things. A couple of them were the sentimental items.
As neighbors started to share videos of their community, Navarro's worst fears starting to look more and more like a reality.
We got a video of our street and every single house was burned down, but you couldn't make it up to my house. You couldn't see through the smoke. So we still had no clarity, and it was just really difficult.
Then these haunting photos confirming her family had lost everything, separated and without a lifetime's worth of treasures.
My mom, she's just in a hotel, and we're trying to find a place to rent so that we can all be together. I know that we still lost everything, but for anyone who believes in God or whatever they believe in, like, any prayers just help so much, and like that means the world to us.
Sam Brock, NBC News.
Coming up, ditching DEI. Some tech giants are preparing for the incoming Trump administration by dialing back diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. But not everyone's doing it. We'll have more on which companies are bucking the trend and what it means for employees just in a minute. We are back with a new trend. Companies making big changes to their diversity and inclusion initiatives, including two of the biggest in tech. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa has the details.
A major change-up in the corporate world as tech behemoths Amazon and Meta are dialing back their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Anti-DEI activist Robbie Starbuck recently telling CNBC,
they're causing division employee on employee, and you're losing money.
Amazon saying in a recent memo, we've been winding down outdated programs and materials. And Meta told employees Friday, given the shifting legal and policy landscape, the company is changing DEI programs focused on hiring, training, and picking suppliers. CEO Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan's podcast Friday.
It's one thing to say we want to be kind of like welcoming and make a good environment for everyone. And I think it's another to basically say that masculinity is bad. And I just think we kind of swung culturally to that part of the kind of the spectrum where, you know, it's all like, okay, masculinity is toxic. We have to like get rid of it completely. It's like
his comments come as tech giants appear to be trying to make inroads with the incoming president, a vocal critic of DEI policies. And following similar moves from companies like Ford, Walmart, and McDonald's. Still, some companies are bucking the trend. Costco's board urging shareholders to vote against a proposal to reevaluate its DEI policies that they say enhance our capacity to attract and retain employees and satisfaction among its diverse customer base, as the workplace sees a new wave of scrutiny. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Let's stay on some business news this morning. It looks like Apple saw iPhone sales slide at the end of 2024. CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other Wall Street headlines. Hey, Silvana, good to see you.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Good to see you, too. Happy Monday. So, yeah, Apple sold fewer iPhones worldwide and lost ground to Chinese rivals in the fourth quarter last year. Counterpoint Research says the iPhone slipped to an 18% global market share. Now, Apple has been playing catch up on AI with its Apple Intelligence features rolling out in stages following the launch of the iPhone 16 in September. Now, those AI features aren't available at all in China, as Apple has yet to secure a local partner. Speaking of Apple, the iPhone Air could be coming later this year. Bloomberg says that's the name Apple may have settled on for the iPhone 17. Now, it will likely be a testing ground for future technology, including what may eventually become Apple's first foldable phones and the company's in-house modem. The iPhone 17 Air is also expected to be thinner than the current models. And some states aren't running on Dunkin'. Stores in Nebraska, New Mexico, and other areas had no donuts to sell late last week. They put up signs on their doors and drive-through kiosks telling customers they weren't available because of a manufacturing error. Some Dunkin' employees are chalking it up to a supply chain issue, but they hope supplies would be replenished this week. Could you imagine, Savannah, going up to Dunkin' and no donuts?
No, I
Oh,
can't.
my God.
It's in the name. All right,
Exactly.
Silvana, thank you very much.
You got it.
Coming up, the first wild card weekend has almost wrapped. 5 teams survived, and only 1 game remains in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. We'll run through the winners and losers, plus more on what to expect for divisional round matchups. That's up next. Welcome back this morning. There are already 5 teams who have booked their ticket into the next round of the NFL playoffs after a full weekend of intense wild card matchups. Just in case you missed it, a last-second field goal lifted the Commanders to an underdog victory over the Buccaneers last night. The Eagles, Ravens, Bills, and Texans were the other teams to survive the first round after they all won their games at home. Well, after enjoying a well-deserved bye week, the Chiefs and Lions will play their first game in the playoffs as the favorites to play in the Super Bowl. But the wild card excitement is not over just yet. Tonight, the Rams will host the Vikings, but in Arizona due to those Southern California wildfires in this final game of the first round. Well, this morning, it is a new chapter over on Today. After a week-long hodabration, the show welcomed Craig Melvin as the new co-anchor alongside Savannah Guthrie. NBC's Mark Barger traces the career path that brought Craig to the anchor chair in Studio 1A.
One thing has been constant. It's photocopy.
Among the myriad of signs last week for Today's departing co-host, there was one for the guy coming in.
Craig, the gold at the end of Hoda's rainbow.
Nice.
How sweet is that?
I'm going to save this one for Monday.
That's when Craig Melvin, Today's longtime news anchor, slides in alongside Savannah Guthrie as Today's new co-anchor.
You know, if you're going to lose your sister, Hoda, which is how we kind of feel about her, like, it's great that the replacement is your brother.
Melvin's ascent to Studio 1A began in his hometown of Columbia, South Carolina.
There's only so much we can squeeze in this morning.
And from that NBC station,
glad to have you with us. I'm Craig Melvin.
A move to the one in Washington, D.C. changed his life. It's where Melvin met and married colleague Lindsay Zarniak. And they've had 2 children, Delano and Sybil.
There was a bit of a paradigm shift.
Melvin's work in D.C. was also pivotal professionally, earning him a spot with the network in 2011 and one with the Today family in 2018.
The iconic spire collapsing in a fiery tangle.
He's covered major stories across the globe.
How long is it going to take to rebuild Notre Dame?
But brought a small-town perspective to his reporting.
Folks in this area also largely cut off.
Combined with his personal charms in the studio, Melvin was an easy choice for his new role.
You were literally made for this job.
Heartily endorsed by his colleagues.
This is one of the most popular decisions NBC News has ever made.
Now, Craig Melvin's ready.
outside of getting married and having my children, this is the most excited I've probably ever been.
To get started, Mark Barker, NBC News.
And I can tell you, because I am lucky enough to know him personally, Craig is one of the best. I've known him since he was the Weekend Today co-anchor, and I was the Weekend Today page, it's called, which is sort of like an intern. He was as kind to me then as he is now. Whenever I get the chance to fill in with him, he's absolutely fantastic. We're so happy for him. Congratulations, Craig, and Hoda, we love you. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Don't go anywhere, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for kicking off your week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, the fight to contain California's devastating wildfire crisis facing a new challenge. Those whipping Santa Ana winds returning overnight, sparking dangerous flare-ups around L.A. as the death toll continues to rise. California Governor Gavin Newsom exclusively spoke to our Meet the Press over the weekend.
In your opinion, is this or will it be the worst natural disaster in the history of the United States?
I think it will be in terms of just the costs associated with it.
We are on the ground with the very latest, including how one of America's largest school districts is coping with tragedy. Also this morning, it's a make or break week on Capitol Hill for some of President-elect Trump's picks for his new administration. Top names expected to try to sway senators toward a possible confirmation, with just a week to go until Inauguration Day. Plus, Special Counsel Jack Smith out at the DOJ. So what does that mean for Trump's legal future as he returns to the White House? The clock is ticking toward that controversial TikTok ban set to go into effect this Sunday. I'll bring you my exclusive conversation with a former insider on what could happen if the Supreme Court decides not to overturn the ban. And it was a wild weekend for football fans. The road to Super Bowl 59 is finally taking shape, and we've got everything you might have missed later on in the hour, including a big one last night, an underdog surprise. We start with the latest on those fires, though, still raging in Los Angeles with new flare-ups and high winds returning. Firefighters are still trying to get control of the inferno. And overnight, we've learned the death toll from both the Eaton and Palisades fires has grown. NBC News Now anchor Tom Yamas is in Los Angeles with the very latest.
When we walked up to this building, we weren't sure what it was, and then we saw the sign, Los Angeles Public Library. This was the Palisades branch here, and if you look closely, you can actually see the metal stacks. The books have been completely incinerated. As residents are trying to absorb images like this, we saw for the first time progress being made on these wildfires. Crews attacking those fires from the air and on the ground to stop the threat. Those whipping Santa Ana winds making a return. In the coming days, wind gusts expected to reach up to 70 miles per hour as the Eaton and Palisades fires broaden their footprint. Officials say the death toll has now reached 24 and still expected to climb. We traveled with CAL FIRE to the top of the now charred Temescal Canyon to see how crews are making critical progress as they battle the blaze. This massive burn scar is helping block the flames from reaching nearby communities. But the threat is not over.
We're down here by one of these hot spots on the canyon. You can see it bubbled up really quickly. But luckily, there's an airdrop just above us. They're going to try to attack it from above.
Choppers with long line buckets carrying hundreds of gallons of water. And on this drop, bullseye.
That's why these airdrops are so critical, attacking these fires from above. With machinery and aircraft like that, that's how they can make progress and get ahead of the fires.
Crews acting fast to put out active flames.
The other concern is not only this fire, but new starts, where it's going to go, how do we respond?
And as the fallout continues, the LA Fire Department chief publicly saying they needed more support before the fires broke out.
Did we have enough resources? I will tell you no.
Mayor Karen Bass said any budget cuts didn't affect the response.
The fire chief and I are focused on fighting these fires. Any differences that we might have will be worked out in private.
It comes as Governor Gavin Newsom calls for an investigation into water supply issues on the fire's front line. The governor speaking out on Meet the Press.
What are the questions that you're hoping to answer?
The same ones you're asking, same ones that people when I'm in the streets are asking, yelling about. What the hell happened? What happened to the water system? Was it, and by the way, Was it just overwhelm, or were 99-mile-an-hour winds determinative, and there was really no firefight that could have been more meaningful?
Now, 6 days after the Palisades fire first began, the massive inferno is still gaining new ground. The National Guard tapped to slow the spread. Aerial efforts hampered by unauthorized drones, including one that punched this hole in a Canadian super scooper. The FBI now investigating. As the ATF is investigating the cause of these wildfires, residents are scrambling to find a place to live. Those families that have been displaced because they've lost everything. One family told us the rental market here has exploded, with 50 people all applying for the same property. Reporting from the Palisades, Tom Yamas, NBC News, back to you.
Tom, thank you very much. Well, in Altadena, California, some residents are returning home to piles of ash after being forced to evacuate. One couple told NBC News Los Angeles reporter Conan Nolan it feels like living in an alternate reality.
It is the heartbreak that is nearly beyond measure for legions of homeowners no more. Their refuge and all that accompanies the physical manifestations of their lives, reduced to rubble, melted into a hellish landscape where all that remains is the memories of what had been.
It was like our dream come true that we worked so hard to get here, and now to see it this way.
I never thought I would live through something like this.
33-year-old Renata Ortega and her Irish-born husband, Andrew, on the site of what was their Glenrose Street home in Altadena. Just one parcel of a sea of dreams lost. A home and a livelihood. A floral studio in back employed up to 10 people.
I need to continue because, my team and my community, needs me as well.
They left in the middle of the night, following the final evacuation order from a sheriff's unit. The winds so loud, one neighbor, a man in his late 70s, could not hear the loudspeaker above the howling gales that had overwhelmed an entire community.
I grabbed him by the hand. He couldn't even barely would get dressed as he was trying to drag himself in the car. He had his phone, a charger around his cable, and his walking cane. And I dragged him in the car. The ambers were coming in the car at the same time, and that was it. We just drove forward, and he was like, he couldn't comprehend what was happening. He woke up to that.
For them and tens of thousands of others, it is now the most daunting of challenges, the complexity of what's next. All they know is that they want to remain, however long that takes.
It's like we're living an alternate reality. I still don't feel like it's real. Even this morning, I was like, no, the house is still there. We'll be able to go back. And I was like, no, it's gone. Everything is gone.
Our thanks to Conan Nolan for that story. Well, according to CAL FIRE, the Eaton fire, that's the one impacting Altadena, has destroyed more than an estimated 7,000 structures. Obviously, as you just heard, there are many of them families' homes, and it's burned through more than 14,000 acres. Well, the Santa Ana winds fueling the California wildfires are set to pick up this week. Probably just about the worst news for these firefighters and for families in L.A. Michelle Grossman is tracking the latest there. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, we're going to see those winds picking up as early as today. We're going to see them ramping up this afternoon into the evening hours, especially overnight, and they're going to stay with us Tuesday and Wednesday. So we do have red flag warnings through Wednesday, 10 million people at risk. We're looking at winds gusting up to 50, 60, even 70 miles per hour once again. And notice those humidity levels. It is warm. It is bone dry. We're looking at humidity levels 8 to 15%. So everywhere in this red shading here, that pink red shading, we're looking at the chance for some fire danger once again. Now, we do have a PDS that comes from the National Weather Service. It's a particularly dangerous situation. It is not issued very often. And this came from the LA National Weather Service office. We're looking at the chance for extremely critical fire weather conditions, high risk for large fires with explosive growth. So it sounds a lot like it was last week. We're going to see this hatched area. That's where we're looking at the highest amount. So the highest chance for some really explosive fires. Westlake Village, Pyramid Lake, Fillmore, Ventura, San Fernando, and also Santa Clarita, looking at some pretty tough days ahead. And we're looking at extreme risks where you see this pink here outlining Santa Clarita, Glendora, Thousand Oaks. That's where we're looking at the extreme risk. Critical risk is in that red color. We also have an elevated risk, so certainly dangerous there as well in this yellow shading. As we go throughout tomorrow, it looks the same, right? We're not seeing it budging so much. So we're seeing this area of high pressure staying in place. It's not moving, and it is aiding the chance of these winds along with an area of low pressure. So this is what it looks like for tomorrow. Once again, same places, Glendora and this extreme risk, Santa Clarita, Thousand Oaks, and also Santa Paula. Now, as we go throughout the rest of today, we're going to see those winds picking up. That's going to aid and hopefully not fuel, but could potentially fuel these fires. Eaton Fire, 27% contained. Palisades Fire at 13%. So we're going to watch that very closely. We're going to watch the chance or the potential for new fires as well. This is what the winds look like right now. They're starting to gust. We're seeing winds gust up to 40 miles per hour in some spots, but most of them 10 to 20. But as we go throughout time here, we're going to really see them pick up once again, especially overnight into tomorrow morning. Take a look at some of these numbers. We're seeing numbers near 51 miles per hour, 54 miles per hour, and then we're going to see some up to 70 miles per hour. So why is this happening? Well, it's a climate connection. We are warmer. We are drier. We're looking at weather systems that aren't budging. So typically this is a rainy season, but it's not here because we have an area of high pressure that is pushing that storm track to the north. So places in Northern California way over their yearly rainfall. But places to the south in Southern California, we are bone dry, as I mentioned. The typical track typically going into the middle of California, that is not the case zone. As we go throughout the next couple of days, really into next week, we're looking at January 22nd, still very, very dry. We have a few chances for spotty showers over the weekend, but that is about it. It's not going to amount to much. It's not going to help the fires. In addition to the fires, we're still looking at really cold conditions in the northern plains, temperatures in the single digits in some spots. It's going to be 16, 18 degrees below normal in some spots, 26 in Cincinnati. Cool, too, as we head down to portions of the southern plains. Corpus Christi, 62, 55 in New Orleans. And this cold will move into the northeast tomorrow, so we're going to be chilly there as well. But again, the big story, we're watching those fires for the next several days.
We sure are. Yeah. Thank you so much for keeping us updated on the latest, Michelle.
Sure.
Well, as the wildfires continue to ravage parts of L.A., the Los Angeles Unified School District announced that the majority of schools will reopen today. In a statement, district officials said, quote, conditions have improved for a majority of areas across the Los Angeles region, and the district is confident it is safe for students and employees to return to campuses. Well, joining us now to discuss is L.A. County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Deborah Duardo. Doctor, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Walk us through this decision. What went into it to reopen schools today, and what can families expect?
Yeah, so just for clarification, there are actually 80 school districts in LA County. More than 25 of those districts had to close due to the fires, poor air quality, and concern with wind damage, fallen trees, and debris that could impact student safety. So whenever we're looking at school closures, the number one concern is making sure that we can bring students back to school safely, that they are not in any danger, that our staff, our teachers, our entire school community are safe. So once the damage has been assessed, the air quality has been assessed, and we are convinced that students can return safely. Of course, the priority is to bring students back to school and to offer them the support that they need.
There were several schools that were damaged and many that were entirely destroyed, like what we've seen in the Palisades due to these wildfires. We know 7 schools, I think it is, in the highest impact areas will remain closed due to mandatory evacuation orders. Heading back to school, I'm sure for families, for parents, a return to normalcy for their children is important. But what happens to students who do not have a school to return to? What is the plan?
So each district is working on where those students will go. So they're working with neighboring schools, looking at their districts, looking at neighboring districts, and also looking at the county for additional spaces where students can be held temporarily. But for those districts where it's going to take more time to rebuild, they're going to have more of a long-term plan. And each school district is managing that individually. But we're also supporting our districts, our teachers, all of our staff on how to talk to children during crisis. We have a lot of students that either have been impacted, have had their own house burned down, or they've been evacuated, or have just simply been watching the news and seeing family members who have been impacted and making sure that we're addressing the emotional well-being of our students and our teachers and staff as well.
A concern, of course, that's top of mind for parents during this time is safety. And on the whole, in Los Angeles, the safety of the air. On Friday, the Department of Health and Human Services declared a public health emergency for California, warning about both the immediate but also long-term threats caused by the smoke. What steps, I should say, have been put in place to protect students as school resumes? For parents who think, God, the air doesn't smell right, it still feels tough to breathe, how are we going to go to school? What would you say?
Well, parents should be reassured that districts are doing everything possible to make sure their children are safe. They're treating this as with these inclement weather and the poor air quality, making sure that students have high quality masks, that they're kept indoors, that they have good air and filtration systems in place. So they are making sure that children are safe and that they are surrounded by educators and personnel that are going to care for them, not only physically, but for their mental health as well.
Dr. Deborah Eduardo, thank you very much. We're wishing you the best of luck as this gets underway and thinking about the entire community of Los Angeles. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
What's expected to be another busy week on Capitol Hill as President-elect Trump's cabinet picks prepare to face scrutiny from Senate members. The confirmation hearings come as Mr. Trump's return to the Oval Office gets closer, with his inauguration now just 1 week away. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us with more on this. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning. And these hearings could make or break some of Donald Trump's more controversial picks. The president-elect has told his GOP Senate colleagues that he wants his team in place as quickly as possible once he's inaugurated. But in some cases, that may prove to be difficult. Clock is ticking down to Trump 2.0. And this time around, Donald Trump has promised to create a cabinet that reflects his political movement.
Now we have a tremendous amount of experience. We have people that I can rely on.
But several of his picks have raised questions from the Senate Republicans that will need to vote to confirm them. And this week, many of these nominees will have to demonstrate that they're up to the job.
Yes, some of them are outside the box, but I do think we have the votes.
Over the course of 4 days, senators are expected to hear from more than 10 Trump cabinet picks. On Tuesday, Pete Hegseth, his selection to lead defense, will be on the hot seat and is expected to get questions about accusations of sexual assault, alcohol abuse, and financial mismanagement, allegations he denies. While Republicans have rallied around Trump's pick, many Democrats still have questions.
I think it's in our best interest to have everything put out on the table.
The confirmation hearings are heating up as Trump has put his legal trouble behind him. He was sentenced Friday in the New York hush money case without any penalty. The federal investigations into classified documents in January 6th were dropped after he won the election. It is unclear if the final reports by Special Counsel Jack Smith will ever be released to the public, but Smith himself informed the court last week that he has resigned his post. One issue still outstanding, whether the president-elect will pardon the Capitol rioters, including those convicted of violent crimes. Trump has said he would consider it.
I'm going to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases, yeah.
Okay.
But yesterday, his vice president-elect, J.D. Vance, speaking out.
If you protested peacefully on January the 6th, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned.
Later posting that his remarks are, quote, not some walk back, and we care about people unjustly locked up, including people provoked. And much of the Hegseth confirmation may hinge on the results of an FBI background check, which was just relayed to the Armed Services Committee. Right now, only the chair and ranking member have access to that report, but both Republican and Democratic rank-and-file members have asked to see it. Savannah?
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. Well, there's much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including our continuing coverage on the wildfires devastating Southern California this morning and the simple acts of kindness rising from the ashes of tragedy. First, though, after the break, TikTok's ticking clock. With less than a week to go until that controversial ban goes into effect, I sat down with a former insider on the popular platform's future in America. Stay with us. Those stories and more are up next. Welcome back. The Supreme Court is set to decide whether a law that could ban TikTok in the United States will take effect on January 19th. That's Sunday. If enforced, TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, will be required to sell its U.S. operations to avoid that ban. So we are down to the wire here. Well, as we've been covering this, you might have heard a lot about the algorithm. Simply put, that's really what makes TikTok TikTok. And here's a catch to that whole idea of selling TikTok. The algorithm likely would not come with it. China would have to approve that, and it's expected that they wouldn't. Well, I spoke with a former TikTok employee who worked on the algorithm team in China to better understand what's at stake. You've sort of used an analogy for this team working on the algorithm, thinking about them as chefs.
Chefs.
Can you tell me about that?
Imagine if you have a really good recipe. You need to know both the list of ingredients and, most importantly, how much of each ingredient to put into the mix. So if you look at, say, a like rate or a share rate or a comment rate or a finish rate, what are the proportions? Like, how much value should those things have within the algorithm themselves? And figuring out what those different proportions are and how they surface the best content that you're most interested in, that's really the key.
If TikTok were to be sold without its algorithm, do you think it's worth much?
I don't think it's worth much, honestly. I think the way that I try to explain this to people is imagine Formula One. You have the car, you have the driver, and you have the team. You could buy the car, even with the engine, but if you don't have the driver and you don't have the team, you probably won't be able to race it very well. I think it's going to be very difficult to sell TikTok, even if you sold it with the algorithm, and to maintain TikTok at its current level, I think would be extremely difficult. TikTok is from China. Chinese people know how to run it. But in the US, there's nothing like it. There's really no one here that, in my opinion, knows how to run TikTok the way that TikTok runs. So what you're going to see in the long run is an evolution. TikTok will have to evolve and it'll change into something entirely new, and it probably won't look a lot like it does now.
Why would it be so difficult to maintain, and why does it seem impossible to do so here?
Because TikTok is massive, and who are you going to sell it to? I think there's a couple of companies like Facebook or Microsoft or OpenAI or Google. Those companies, they're very large. They can scale to massive amounts of systems, and they have the types of people that would be able to work on this. Obviously, Elon Musk with X, he could also do this. But if you're talking about a company that's not at that level, I think for them to just take on something like TikTok is just, it's quite large, and it'd be a massive challenge and undertaking.
A few billionaires seem to think they can do it. What do you have to say to that?
I think anything in the U.S. is possible. I think that it is great to have that idea, but TikTok came to the U.S. and it basically beat all of the competition here. And now it's very difficult to beat TikTok. If Facebook can't do it, if you look at Reels, if you look at Snapchat Spotlight, if you look at YouTube Shorts, those are the best companies in the world. And if they can't recreate TikTok, how is anyone else going to recreate TikTok?
How quickly would it become essentially defunct, even if you already have it on your phone?
I think it'd be a couple of months before people really started to feel like it's deteriorating, because what's going to happen is you could still use TikTok if you downloaded it before the ban. After the ban, you won't be able to download it. People will still probably create content, but other content creators, they'll start dropping off. And once they start dropping off more and more, like, the decay is going to decay really fast.
Our thanks to Drew, who, by the way, worked at TikTok for 6 years and just left late last year. He also stressed that while other social media apps place an emphasis on content from accounts you follow, TikTok emphasizes content you want to see based on your interests that it's able to understand in a more unique and targeted way. That is part of what makes the app so popular, but that is also part of the concern for lawmakers. Now let's get to what's making news around the world this morning, starting with significant progress is the quote toward a ceasefire in the Middle East. NBC international correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us from Rome. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. That's right. Now, in a telephone call on Sunday between President Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, President Biden stressed once again the importance of an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and of the return, of course, of the remaining hostages still in the hands of Hamas. Now, this is seen as a last-ditch attempt by President Biden to end the war in Gaza before President-elect Donald Trump returns to the White House on January 20th. At the same time, a senior Arab diplomat tells NBC News that since Donald Trump's own envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, arrived in the region a couple of days ago, real progress on the ceasefire deal was made. Now let's go to Ukraine, where authorities say they repelled an assault from North Korean soldiers overnight in Russia's Kursk region, killing 17 of them. At the same time, President Zelensky said he is willing to exchange 2 North Korean soldiers captured last week for Ukrainian prisoners. Ukraine's security service said one of the two soldiers captured on January 9th said he thought he was going to Russia for training and not to fight, while the other was carrying a Russian military ID card issued in the name of another person, allegedly in an attempt to hide his North Korean identity. And let's end this tour of the world near here at the Vatican, where on Sunday, Pope Francis baptized 21 babies in the Sistine Chapel. It's part of an annual tradition that marks the end of the Christmas holiday period at the Vatican. The Pope personally baptized the babies, all children of Vatican employees, under the ceiling frescoed by Michelangelo. The Pope stressed that during the ceremony it was the babies who were in charge and asked the parents to serve them with their sacrament and their prayers. Well, bless them. Back to you, Savannah.
All right, Claudio, thank you so much. Well, coming up, continuing coverage of those devastating wildfires in Southern California. After the break, how firefighters and first responders are bracing for even more high winds this week. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back now with more on the devastating wildfires that continue to ravage Southern California. At least 24 people have been killed as these fires burned more than 40,000 acres and destroyed more than 12,000 structures. The Palisades fire, that's the largest, it's now 13% contained. NBC News correspondent Jay Gray joins us from the Pacific Palisades. Jay, good morning. So tens of thousands of people remain evacuated this morning. Many more currently in evacuation warning zones. We are dealing with the winds picking up again. There has been concerns about water supply. Tell us the latest on the ground for the Palisades fire.
Yeah, and Savannah, let's start with the destruction. And we've seen the pictures. They don't do it justice. It's overwhelming here, unimaginable. Take a look behind me. This building, I mean, it looks like there was a bombing attack here. You can see the devastation. There are other areas where you've got just nothing left, no clue of what stood before the flames came through. And this type of devastation stretches for miles across this region right now. You talk about the situation on the ground, 1,000 additional National Guard troops brought in overnight, joining law enforcement, fire teams on the ground, and they are patrolling constantly in these areas, looking for any hot spots, dousing those, of course, making sure everything stays safe as well, and preparing for what's expected to be another serious and severe wind event beginning at some point this evening. A lot of people and many of the residents, thousands who are locked out, can't get back into these areas for safety concerns, are really wondering, how did it get to this level? What happened? And there's been so much talk about areas where there was a lack of water, a lack of what is just a basic necessity in fighting the flames. Yesterday, California Governor Gavin Newsom, speaking with Jacob Soboroff on Meet the Press in an exclusive interview, said he has the same questions and he wants them answered. Give a listen.
The same ones you're asking, same ones that people when I'm in the streets are asking, yelling about. What the hell happened? What happened to the water system? Was it, and by the way, was it just overwhelm that you had so much that was used, we drew it down? Was it pipes? Was it electricity? It was a combination of pipes, electricities, and pumps. Or were 99-mile-an-hour winds determinative, and there was really no firefight that could have been more meaningful? So all of us want to know those answers.
Yeah, look, I think that's an important point. When you've got winds 90 to 100 miles an hour pushing these flames, there's not a lot you can do, to be real frank about the situation. They are going to explore and figure out exactly what happened in all of this. But right now, that's not the main focus. Right now, it's continuing to search these areas, find those who are missing, and then prepare for these winds that are going to be upwards of 50 to 70 miles an hour at times over the next couple of days. So it's still very much a fight. You don't see a lot of active flame, but it's there. And so they're working to make sure it doesn't spread as this next wind event pops up. Savannah.
Jay Gray, thank you so much, and please stay safe. Well, more than a dozen fire departments from Washington state have deployed to California to assist fighting the fires. Reporter Bridget Chavez from our NBC station in Seattle was on the front lines as these fire crews battle to contain fires burning near Los Angeles and Mandeville Canyon.
Western Washington firefighters have arrived. Happy to be here. It's definitely a voluntary process to get sent down here. Every one of them knew what they were getting into.
Stepping up to help battle the blazes burning around Los Angeles County.
What we've got today is two major things that we're working against right now: rain and wind.
The Palisades fire pushing northeast, threatening thousands of homes.
It's not over yet as the winds continue to swirl and the smoke continues to rise.
From Snohomish to Seattle.
We're going to stay here throughout the day. We're scheduled to stay here into the night and make sure this goes cold.
The PNW has boots on the ground.
We'll probably start working that line with hand lines out further.
This is Mondeville Canyon, and this is where those new evacuation orders were just issued, and we can actually feel the heat from those flames just coming up. So the big concern from firefighters is that those flames could potentially work their way up this hill, and that's why they are working around the clock to continue to save these homes.
Without air support and winds picking back up,
helicopters reach those areas that we can't get to safely, and nor for that matter get out of there.
Firefighters say this would be a much different story.
20, 30 engines up here, 3 to 4 person crews. If we didn't have this air support, it would have been all we could do to try to slow it down.
Our thanks to Bridget Chavez for that report. And as we've been reporting, firefighters say it's the strong wind gusts that will be a concern over the next few days, a point underscored by Governor Newsom as well as our Jay Gray just a moment ago. Well, the devastating wildfires have led to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services declaring a public health emergency in California. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar joins us with more on this. Dr. Azar, good morning. So walk us through how declaring a public health emergency can provide resources to help Los Angeles County.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Savannah. So basically, if you think about all of the regulations that normally would govern healthcare in LA or in California are essentially going to be loosened. And what that does is it gives healthcare providers more flexibility to take care specifically of Medicare and Medicaid patients. HHS has also said that it will waive certain HIPAA privacy rules, as well as staffing and operational requirements. And ultimately, that's going to lead to increased access and care for many, many patients. And then finally, HHS has said also that they would be ready to deploy supplies as well as medical personnel if needed. California just needs to ask.
What are some of the immediate health risks of that smoke and contaminated air? How can people protect themselves? And when should you know? I know my family lives in San Diego, for example. There's smoke that you can smell that there's obviously a bad fire, even as far, away as a 2-hour drive in San Diego. Not to say that air is dangerous, but how can you tell? Just when you can smell, when you could tell that there's a fire somewhere, when is it dangerous and what should you do?
Yeah, so I think you can basically divide the two categories of the body, essentially, that are affected by the smoke. And that's going to be your lung, your pulmonary system, as well as your cardiovascular system or your heart. And so some of the most immediate things that people would understand is sort of a burning in the back of the throat, irritated eyes, some wheezing, some coughing. And the short-term health effects certainly can include exacerbation of underlying lung diseases like asthma, COPD, but there's also an increased risk of heart failure and heart attack and stroke in the acute setting. What people can do is obviously if they smell smoke, they definitely need to stay inside with the air conditioner that has a filter. If it's too hot to be outside, you need to go to a public place if you don't have air conditioning. Wearing an N95 mask is really, really important, and keeping your pets and your children inside. And one thing that LA just announced a couple of days ago, no leaf blowers, and in the house you want to not use the vacuum cleaner, things like that. And all of this stuff is available for residents of the LA area so that they can definitely educate themselves about this.
Absolutely. And Dr. Azar, also school is back in session for a lot of Los Angeles County starting today. What should parents think about as their kids head out the door?
Yeah, I think if they've deemed the air quality to be safe enough for their children to go to school, I think that you can send them in good faith. Certainly if you have a child who has asthma, you should have what's always called an asthma action plan. Make sure they're up to date on their inhalers so that they have any exacerbation, they can take care of that at school. And I think we need to also talk about the potential long-term effects of smoke exposure. Unfortunately, we don't really know the health effects for the general population. It's really only studied in wildfire fighters. but we can't, talk about this without discussing the potential mental health impact, the displacement, the fear, the loss that these people are experiencing. That is something that's going to last for some time.
Absolutely. Dr. Azar, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Important information. Thank you. Well, amid the devastation from the wildfires, there are also glimmers of hope. That is thanks to the countless acts of bravery and kindness being demonstrated as communities come together to lend a helping hand during this time of unimaginable loss. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky joins us from Altadena, California, to share some of those heartfelt moments, something I know we all love to see at a time like this and be inspired, right, for how we can help as well. Morgan, good morning.
Yeah, Savannah, we'll take inspiration wherever we can get it in a time like this, right? And as stunning and heartbreaking as it's been to see the devastation like this from here at the Eaton Fire all the way to the Pacific Palisades, there is a little hope here. And that is the fact that volunteers are going out of their way to try to help as many people as possible. And they want to lend a hand to help get thousands of these folks back on their feet.
This morning, as a wildfire disaster deepens, the City of Angels living up to its name. Acts of kindness and generosity pouring into fire-stricken areas.
We got so many volunteers, guys. Thank you guys for coming out.
Donation centers like this one at the Santa Anita racetrack flooded with much-needed supplies and volunteers eager to help. Even Adam Zespedes showing up to lend a hand, even after losing their own home to the Eaton Fire.
We feel isolated, like, oh, no one cares. But then at the end of the day, when tragedy happens, all over the town, they come and support.
In Altadena, this family singing hymns over the ashes of the home they'd lived in for 35 years. Nearby, the Altadena Community Church was a fixture in the community for more than 80 years before it, too, was destroyed by fire. Not far from the remains of that church, migrant workers leading a volunteer fire relief force, some 500 people strong, clearing debris from roads and parks, collecting supplies, and distributing them to victims.
People need love and company. In these times of difficulty, hope is built by this act of kindness and love.
Ruth Judkins will celebrate her 90th birthday next month and never expected to see her Altadena home of 48 years go up in flames.
Everybody on our street communicated and just made sure that, are you out? Are you out? Are you safe?
She's seen the damage in photos, but told us life experience has given her some valuable perspective.
So I don't really need a lot of clothes. My life is really simple.
Have you found that facing a loss like this, that mentality is kind of helping?
Yes. I don't worry. And I am at the age where you can look back and actually know what's important. People.
Yeah, Ruth sharing some perspective for all of us. And believe it or not, that home of 48 years, this is what's left of it. Ruth says she hasn't had a chance to come back yet, but she wishes when she evacuated, she had grabbed one thing in particular, Savannah, and that was her recipe book that she's been compiling over the last 50 years or so. But she says that when she realized what she did have, her family, her friends, it brought a smile to her face. And unfortunately, we're seeing smiles across these fire zones because of the hard work of so many volunteers trying to make a difference.
Oh,
Savannah.
Isn't that right? Oh, my gosh. And she had an incredible attitude. Great interview there. Morgan, thank you very much. Coming up, a change of color. After the break, we'll take you inside the eyebrow-raising trend online of permanently changing your eye color. Why experts say the procedure is not without its risks. Stick around. That's next. We are back with a new trend coming into focus online. It's a surgery to permanently change the color of your eyes. But the American Academy of Ophthalmology says it's a risky procedure. NBC News Daily anchor Vicki Nguyen has more on what experts want patients to understand before signing up.
Have you seen one of the latest beauty trends online? Surgery to permanently change the color of your eyes to shades like jade, French blue, and honey gold.
I'm in shock.
Raquel Ballesteros relied on colored contacts to get the gray eyes she loved. But when she saw an ad like this on Instagram,
your dreamlike color is just a blink away.
She decided to pay $12,000 to get keratopigmentation surgery to permanently change the color of her eyes. A doctor uses a laser to carve a channel into the cornea, then fills it with a colored ink.
Today is the day. Is the day I'm going to say goodbye to my brown eyes.
We were there as Raquel underwent the procedure at this New York clinic run by Dr. Alexander Movshevich. First, some numbing drops, then the laser, and finally injecting the ink. After 40 minutes, it was all done.
Very, very good. No pain, and with the blankets, everything was comfortable. Amazing, incredible.
Dr. Movshevich advertises the surgery to his 260,000 followers on Instagram. He says in 5 years of performing keratopigmentation on more than 1,000 patients, no one has reported serious problems.
What kinds of complications have your patients experienced?
Not many. They have some discomfort, about 24 to 72 hours.
But in November, the American Academy of Ophthalmology issued its second warning, urging people to avoid this surgery for cosmetic reasons, citing risks that include cloudy vision and even vision loss due to infection.
I've scrutinized all the data.
AAO spokesperson and ophthalmologist Dr. Christopher Starr says there isn't enough data to support the safety of keratopigmentation to change eye color. It's only FDA approved for patients with corneal defects. If it's safe for medical reasons, why isn't it safe for cosmetic reasons?
That's a good question. When you do an invasive procedure like this in a healthy seeing eye with no problems at all, that is a weakening of the cornea.
The procedure now has a 15-year track record. And to me, that's shown that it's been safe and effective.
Cornea specialist Dr. Brian Boxer-Wackler says the procedure has been performed in Europe for more than 15 years, and he's done it on hundreds of patients at his Beverly Hills practice. He and Dr. Movshevich joined 2 other ophthalmologists in writing a protest letter calling on the AAO to retract its warning. What do you say to people who think this is a perfectly legitimate procedure for medical reasons, but when it comes to cosmetic purposes, it's an unnecessary risk?
I think that we see this mindset even with other procedures such as LASIK. In the beginning, so many doctors were saying, why would you operate on a perfectly healthy eye? They can just wear contacts and glasses. So there's a mind shift that has to take place for a lot of doctors that aren't used to working in a cosmetic space.
As for Raquel, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and she says she's happy with what she sees.
I love the eyes. I love my face with these eyes. So wonderful.
Vicky Nguyen, NBC News.
Wow, just incredible. Let's get to some big financial headlines of the morning. Amazon is cutting its Try Before You Buy program on Prime. We've got CNBC's Silvana Henao with us with more on that, as well as some other news. Hey, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah. Sorry, I'm still getting over that that whole thing of eye color change. I can't even. All right, let me get you some headlines. Let's start with Amazon, which is shutting down its Prime Try Before You Buy program, which lets Prime members try and clothes before paying for them. That'll be at the end of the month. Now, an Amazon spokesperson confirming to The Verge the company is ending the service, well, because it only worked for a limited number of items, and customers are increasingly using Amazon's new AI features to decide what to buy. Now, Try Before You Buy launched in 2018 as Amazon Wardrobe. You know, a mansion that was featured in the final season of Succession has reportedly burned down in the Palisades fire that's destroyed hundreds of homes and property in Los Angeles. The 18-bedroom, 6-bathroom home was a luxury mainstay for the Roy siblings on the HBO show. Now, the opening scenes of season 4 showed off the mega mansion's winding driveway, infinity pool, and breathtaking views. Before the fire, the home had been available to rent for $450,000 a month. And reality stars Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt are among the many residents who've lost their homes in the LA fires, but they're getting help from their fans. Pratt has been urging his followers on social media to stream his wife's 2010 album, Superficial, as a way to financially support the couple. Now, it may have worked. The album hit #1 on iTunes this weekend, Savannah.
Wow, that is just amazing. I know.
Yeah.
I message sometimes with Spencer on Instagram, which is a hilarious thing to say. But I've just, obviously it's just devastating that they've lost their home. But it's pretty cool to see something like that happen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what he said. All right, Silvana, thank you so much. It was a thrilling weekend for football fans as the path to Super Bowl 59 kicked off with an intense first round of the NFL playoffs. 5 teams advanced out of Wild Card Weekend with one more exciting matchup to look forward to later tonight. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung has the latest.
Hey there. As we all know, playoff football hits different. And some of the biggest names in the NFL reminded us of that this weekend. The Ravens, Texans, Bills, and Eagles all claiming victory at home, but it was that wild ride for the Commanders on the road, clinching a playoff win for the first time in nearly 20 years. That's the early talk of the push to the Super Bowl. The NFL's Wild Card Weekend, delivering commanding performances and punishing hits. As Sunday night's matchup in Tampa Bay finished in wild fashion. The Commanders winning on a last-second field goal off the upright. Washington's first playoff victory since 2005.
You were 5 years old the last time Washington won a playoff. How big is this moment?
I mean, it means a lot, man. You can just see all the fans over here. They waited a long time for this.
In Philadelphia, the Eagles outlasting the Packers. Injuries hitting the Packers hard as they finished the game without 2 of their top wide receivers and 2 offensive linemen. Up in Buffalo, Bills Mafia celebrating their victory over Denver. Despite an injury to quarterback Josh Allen's thumb, the Bills blew out the Broncos.
You got to go schedule a manicure. How's that thumb doing?
That's good. I just got a little blood there. It's fine.
On Saturday, the Texans defense destroying the Chargers. Quarterback Justin Herbert throwing 4 interceptions, 1 more than he threw the entire regular season. But in Baltimore, the most dazzling performance of the weekend, as the Ravens ran over their biggest rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lamar Jackson quieting the crowd's MVP chants, while Derrick Henry set a Ravens playoff record with 186 yards rushing.
It's a great win, but we got 3 more.
Now, there is one wild card game left tonight, the Vikings and the Rams. LA will be the home team, but it'll be played in Arizona, the league moving it there because of the fires in Los Angeles. Back to you.
All right, Kaylee, thank you so much. Coming up, Faith from Fire. After the break, the stories of hope rising from the ashes across LA as churchgoers flock to places of worship in the wake of the tragedy. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're going to end this hour with a beacon of hope amid the devastation in Los Angeles. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky reports on one of several churches across the city opening its doors on Sunday morning to people who no longer have their own place to worship.
Amid scenes causing unimaginable pain, Sunday, the unmistakable sound of praise.
Give him all your years of pain.
LA's Montebello Congregational Church, welcoming new faces in a dark time.
Overwhelming.
Pastor Paul Tellstrom still processing how Altadena's community church fell to the flames in minutes.
19 members of our church lost their homes, so it's an unusual sense of camaraderie.
And with nowhere else to go, his congregation was invited here.
We welcome our friends from Altadena.
Reverend Mitchell Young offering support to a longtime friend.
Whether it's times of struggle or times of joy, we need to be together.
The Halpin family singing hymns amongst the ruins of where their home once stood. Among the items salvaged, a small statue of the Virgin Mary.
Hallelujah.
For the Altadena church family, the first step forward, presenting their beloved pastor with new clergy stoles, symbols of renewal and hope, after the fire took his.
What do you want them leaving the service today knowing?
Don't give up. Church is not a building. We are the church. It will rise from the ashes once again.
Come and fill your land.
Morgan Chesky, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Just so moving. Our thanks to Morgan for that. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.